Alright my friends, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're going to talk about the 7900 XTX. Now yesterday was my first day with this. I only had about 4 hours to play around with it. I've played around with it for another probably 3 hours right now. It's like 8 o'clock. I pulled the 4080 Super out so we could talk about some of the some of the differences, some of the things that I'm seeing that I am liking a lot more on the 7900 XTX, and then there are some things about the RTX 4080 Super that I think, because I want to give you the best information I can. My intentions are not to try to tell you what to buy. The best I can do is be honest with you and help you understand the reasons why I really like the AMD 7900 XTX, and the reasons that I think the money would be better spent, going with AMD versus going with NVIDIA. Now, if you've been with the channel for a while and you've listened to the way I respond to people in the comments section, when people ask like a real question, I do try to help them figure out what situation is best for them. And if they tell me like, hey man, I want to get the like the 4070 Super or something like that, and dude, I've never once tried to steer somebody away from buying an NVIDIA card if that's what they really want. I've always tried to be fair and non-biased in the way I respond to people and the way I talk to people when it comes to these things, because let's face it, these are they're not cheap. Like, graphics cards are getting more expensive, but during the last couple of hours of just playing with this 7900 XTX, utilizing the feature set like AMD, I bought that game, Nobody Wants to Die. I was checking that out. Unreal Engine 5 game, very heavy right now. Literally having to use AMD's FSR 3 to even get above 60 frames per second on that game, but the level of detail in that game was so high, it's like, wow, this looks incredible. So there's definitely I would say there's definitely a gap between the 7900 XTX and the 4080 Super. Now, this is 100% dependent on the type of games you play. I play a lot of open world games. I play a lot of, Ubisoft games, Sony first party games, Xbox first party games. I play a lot of them AAA bangers, but I do dabble in some of these games like PAX Day. I picked up No Man's Sky today on the PC because I've kind of been missing playing that game. It just got an amazing new update today. I'm going to try to get you guys a video tonight on that. There's the, like First Descendant. I'm playing that. I'm still playing that. Like, I've got so many games that I'm playing around with right now. And yesterday, playing around with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, I want to explain the differences to you, and a lot of these are going to be dependent on not only driver level features, but features in general, like DLSS or FSR or anything like that. Because going forward, guys, all of my types of reviews or content or any of that, it's going to feature those settings. When I put the NVIDIA card back in there, we're going to just use DLSS, we're going to use FSR, we're going to use these features and really try to push the overall performance as high as I can get. Because after last night, playing around with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, over 200 frames a second, utilizing AMD's fluid motion frames, I fell in love with that. I literally, I'm not even joking, I fell in love with that. I was like, wow, this feels and looks incredible to me. So I know what a lot of people are thinking. And when you're sitting here and you're playing a game and you're looking at like the the visual quality, or you're testing something, you are more likely to be looking for imperfections when you're doing that. When you are just sitting there, admiring the visuals, checking out the new game when it first comes out, like looking at things, trying to see, like looking for stuff that's cool, things that like really catch your eye. Those are the moments when you are going to notice imperfections that are in that, especially if you are one of them people that really like and thrive on visual settings. You know who you are. If you're a ultra settings kind of person like I am, you're gonna notice that stuff a lot more. But let's be real, let's be honest. We don't need to, there's no reason to try to pretend like we're all snobby or anything like that. We're all video gamers at the end of the day. So yes, if a feature is necessary, we're obviously going to use it. And I've come to the realization, you know, just kind of by looking at the way people respond in the comment section, the way people talk, and you know, I get it, man. I get it. There are those people out there that are purists that are like, no, I ain't using upscaling, I ain't using that. But if they're not watching this channel, and if they are, it's few and far between. I would say the main focus and the main audience for this channel are people that are wanting to use FSR. They're wanting to use frame generation. They're wanting to use these features, and they're wanting to know how they play and react and feel in the newer games. They're wanting to see what a 7900 XTX can do, fully utilizing those power. They want to see what an RTX 4080 Super can do using those powers. And it's just you know, most people that I talk to, you know, like Darren, we had Darren Spratty on the channel the other day, and he was telling me, yeah, dude, when I get in there in 4K, I flip on DLSS, and I'm like, I want max everything. And I feel like that's the way a lot of the people in the community are. And you know, in some ways he's kind of got a point. You know, if you're wanting that 4K image quality, I do kind of feel like maybe DLSS does 4K just a little bit better, because if you're wanting 4K, you're wanting that sharp, you're wanting that crisp, you're wanting that just that in your face like look from 4K. So I get it. I do kind of agree that NVIDIA does 4K a little bit better, but I think, and this is me, guys, this is me, I don't personally like the sharp look too much. I've kind of just, you know, been like, ooh, I don't know if I really like that. I don't like that look. I kind of like a little bit more softer tone to my visuals. I don't mind a little bit of blur, a little bit of, you know, a little bit of blur, or you know, a little bit of softness around the edges and stuff like that, guys. I don't mind that. To me, that actually looks a little bit better. It actually looks better. I like that. I like that look a little bit better than the sharp, clean, crispy look. But don't get me wrong, guys. There are some games I like that clean look, that crispy, clean look. I do. There are some. But seeing as I play a lot of open world games with a lot of vegetation, and I've explained this multiple times, seeing as I play a lot of that type of game, I like the subtle softness. I like that. And I think that that's where FSR kind of excels for me. In terms of, like, if I've got to use it, then I would kind of prefer, and I do kind of lean a little bit more toward the FSR stack than I do DLSS. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, guys. I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I have the 4080 Super in there, I really do long to have my AMD card back in there. And now that I have this 7900 XTX, I can honestly say comfortably that, like, the games that I like to play, and I will, if I can do it fair and non-biasedly, I will try to put together some benchmarks showing the differences between the games that I like to play, so that you can understand that I do kind of feel like I'm getting better performance out of 7900 XTX on these games. And you know, and like a little bit of them because when I do these benchmarks, see, here's the thing, like I was just saying earlier, when I do these benchmarks, I want to use the features. I want, you know, if I'm in the NVIDIA card, I want DLSS on there. If I've got the 7900 XTX in there, I want AMD, fluid motion frames, or whatever. Anything that I can get to get an edge to play that game to make performance better, you can bet that I'm going to use that. So that really right there sets the 7900 XTX apart from the 4080 Super in my eyes. I have access to fluid motion frames on all DX11 and DX12 games. And after playing around with that on Assassin's Creed Valhalla last night, I can honestly tell you that a lot more games are going to play like that. I've even tested it on The Witcher 3, and wow, man, that was pretty dang good. So I think just outright saying, hey man, NVIDIA's the best GPU, I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think that holds up anymore. I think that there's a distinct experience on both cards that I think you would be able to, gosh man, just depending on what you really, really want. In my opinion, the ray tracing performance of the 4080 Super is pretty good. It is playable. It's what I would call definitely worth checking out if you've got the money to utilize, if that's what you want. But we're still talking like 60 to 80 frames. I've gotten accustomed, and this is why I say it's playable, is because I've gotten accustomed to about 80 frames per second gameplay. You know, from testing out the 7800 XT, the 4070 Super, things like that. I've gotten accustomed to the 80 frames a second. That's what feels normal to me as my like baseline kind of minimum where I like to be for my overall experience. And that there's usually pretty easy for you to get to at 1440p. Like that's pretty easy. So when I'm playing with this, like 80 frames, 60 to 80 frames is kind of my baseline minimum for ray tracing, and that's about the maximum that the 4080 Super can do. And that's with using frame generation, DLSS. So that's about the maximum the 4080 Super can do in those overall type of situations. So in my opinion, after using fluid motion frames and, you know, just frame generation in general, if you've got FSR3, obviously definitely turn that on. That's going to give you a little bit better experience. But, you know, I was playing some Forspoken, I got Forspoken, I've got some, you know, Horizon Forbidden West, some of these other open world games that I like to get in there and play. The ultra smoothness of having that up to and above 200 frames a second on my new ultra-wide monitor. My guys, when I was playing, I'm not even joking. Why do you think I was so excited in that other video? When I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla at over 200 frames a second, like that was mesmerizing for me. I was like, wow, this is really good. I was like, this is magical. Like literally magical. And like I said yesterday, dude, I could have been stuck on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 for the rest of this generation had I not started this channel. So I'm like, oh gosh, man, this is incredible. And gaming for me is at a whole different level now, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And AMD makes that easier for me. It delivers a color palette that I like more. When I found the color palette, guys, it was between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. You know, the Xbox would give you a more bright, vibrant color look, and I liked that. On the Xbox Series X, when I started seeing that in games that were coming out, like I started liking that, and maybe that broke down my like walls or whatever to get me to like, oh yeah, that's what I prefer. Maybe that's how it started, guys, because PlayStation had always been more of that realistic tone type stuff like that. And so when I'm playing both of those and I'm looking at both of them, you know, side by side, and I'm seeing that, and NVIDIA goes out of their way to try to do that more realistic color, whereas AMD lets you kind of push the boundaries a little bit, and I like that. And there are settings on NVIDIA. Like I said, if I only had an NVIDIA GPU and I never tried AMD, after finding digital vibrance, stuff like that, I would 100% be like, yeah, this is pretty good. So that's not like a huge deal, but it is still there in the back of my mind all the time. But I will say, AMD, in my opinion, and I'll get you guys some video over the coming weeks, months, whatever, showing you guys that I think AMD does a significantly better job with HDR. When you set up your monitor, when you do the Windows HDR setup, when you set that up on the monitor and then on your TV, you got to do it for each screen, and it will lock in those HDR settings. It will give you your true blacks, it will give you your highlights, it will help you adjust your color. I mean, it is pretty rudimentary or whatever, but it really is just kind of looking for the darks, the black and the bright brights, and kind of keeping you so that you're not, so that you're not clipping a whole bunch, which is pretty cool. Like, it sets that, and then it helps you, and then you kind of just, get in there, play around with the framework, and it does work on NVIDIA too, but you got to get in there and set it up. But I still think that AMD definitely has the edge. Like I said, I will get you guys some video as soon as I can figure out this new camera and how to do that and how to make it very, very good. I'll get you guys some video, I promise. But in terms of the overall experience that I'm getting from the 7900 XTX, I would say that this card is pretty close in overall, performance to the 4080 Super. And like I said, it does definitely go above, and in some things it definitely goes below, especially when you get into the ray tracing. The NVIDIA card easily has an edge, but the 24 gigs of VRAM, the 384-bit bus, like, this card's pretty strong, man. This is not something to be like, I wouldn't take it lightly, and I wouldn't dismiss it out of just the whole NVIDIA is better or anything like that. I think that you can get an extremely good value for a 7900 XTX. I think this card is incredible. It definitely, in my opinion, and this one's for you, Onyx, yes, I think this card is definitely worth the extra money that, I paid $869 for it. Right now you can get a 7900 XT for like $699 or whatever. In my opinion, yes, this card is definitely worth the more money. It might not always play out in performance, but it does in a way, because now I can get a higher overall frame rate at 3840 by 1620p, therefore making my virtual super resolution and my use of AMD's fluid motion frames even better. So yes, that is a big win for me, especially now that I've got the 3440 by 1440p monitor. This card is actually pretty dang good, as is the 4080 Super. I don't have a problem with this card. I definitely like it, but I do feel like it's going to sit on the shelf a lot more now that I've got the XTX. I do. I like AMD. I'm definitely, I guess you could say, more biased toward AMD. That is for sure. So yeah, I personally recommend AMD. I think AMD is awesome, but I'm not going to stop you from buying NVIDIA. And if you want honest opinion about NVIDIA, no problem. I will give you that. There's a lot of things that, I mean, I do 100% think that anybody that bought an NVIDIA card could be happy with an NVIDIA card. Like, they're pretty dang good. They're not bad at all. So, yeah. So yeah, guys, this is day 2 with the 7900 XTX. I'll definitely be playing with it a little bit more throughout the week, obviously. But then once we get to the weekend, I will be able to crank out some better content. So you're probably getting talking head videos and some gameplay videos. But once the weekend comes, I got some cool stuff that I've got planned that I want to try out. So as soon as we get there, we'll get to that. So I hope you guys enjoy this content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.